So it's been a busy and significant year for the royal family. Here to look at some of the key events for them is the royal editor of the Evening Standard, Robert Jobson. Thanks so much for joining us, Robert. So, of course, this year, it of course was the centenary year for the start of the First World War. What was their role in all of that?
Well, the royals played a major role in this. I mean, I think that the Queen was up in Scotland where she lit a candle, and that was quite a moving image. But really the focus was on Prince William and Kate, who went to Belgium. That was quite a significant moment where he was amongst all the kings and queens and other presidents and heads of state. So it was quite a big step up for him. But there was also images, really, if you remember, of the Queen and all the members of the royal family going to the Tower of London, where the Sea of Poppies became the really emotional and key point where everyone seems to have remembered the anniversary. So, yeah, I think that they played a central role, but, you know, effectively the royals are really a military family, if you like, and the reality is this is where the Queen, as the head of the armed forces, comes into her own.
And we saw a lot more of the younger members of the royal family and the youngest members. I mean, what were your highlights for you for 2014?
Well, for me, really, was going to Australia and New Zealand. I do a lot of work over there, and this was for William and Kate's trip when they took Prince George to the Down Under, really. And when Prince George came off the plane, there was a big flurry of activity. All the photographers were focused on him for the first time, and not William and Kate, which was a bit of a change for them, I'm sure, too. And it became the Prince of Cuteness tour. There'd been a lot of talk about republicanism and whether or not that tide would continue to grow down under. But really, I think one of the leading Republicans called Prince George the Republican Slayer. So it was quite a big tour for him and for us, really. We were away for a long time, and every day it was making big headlines around the world.
Now, we saw less of the Queen this year. Do you think that's because she's stepping back, or is she being overshadowed by the younger members?
Well, the Queen does carry out an awful lot of engagements every year, but she is 88 years old. I think there is a quiet, behind-the-scenes movement, really, for her to do less because, you know, along with the Duke of Edinburgh, who's 93, it cannot be expected that they continue at the pace that they do. Although I must admit, when the Duke of Edinburgh went into an old people's home, actually, he said, "I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm older than most of you." So he was able to just carry on at that sort of pace. The Queen does an awful lot of engagements, but I think the style of engagements will change. She'll be doing less foreign travel and be relying more and more on the younger royals, which is where William and Kate particularly will step in. But of course, the Prince of Wales and Camilla will be doing their bit, effectively representing the Queen abroad. But they've often done that. But this doesn't mean the Queen is, you know, abdicating or anything mad like that. What it means is that they're just pacing her.
And we've seen a lot of the Prince of Wales in London this year, particularly he's looking at and working in a city estate. He's at the Paddington Square estate and also at the Iraqi Christian Centre here. Yeah,
the Prince of Wales has focused a lot on really the built environment, and he would visit the estates to make speeches and talk about the way people were living. He believes very much that things could be changed in a lot of these places. So, and also with the Christian side of things, you know, he's one day going to be the head of the Church of England, but he's spoken out very strongly in support of them whilst he's been on those visits. And that particular one was quite strong because he was talking really about recent events that have been going on in Iraq and how really they've been persecuted, and that we should be doing more to support those communities.
And then we saw the royal family really warming up to technology this year. The Prince of Wales using direct video messages.
Yeah, the Prince of Wales uses direct messages. So did the Duke of York and Princes William and Harry. They really do believe that this is the way forward because really they don't want to increase their carbon footprint by flying around the world making big speeches. This is a way of getting their message directly across. I mean, William and Charles did one to try to help stamp out the illegal wildlife trade. That was important. You had the Duke of York doing a similar thing to try and promote young entrepreneurs, and William and Harry have used them time again for their charitable causes. So all of these ways, they believe it's a way, if you like, of controlling their message, where in the past perhaps they fear with the media, the tabloid media and some areas of the television, that their message is distorted. So in a way they get it across. My view is sometimes it looks a bit stilted. If they're not being interviewed by a professional, they're just speaking down the camera. They're not media professionals, and sometimes, particularly Prince William, sometimes it doesn't come across that well.
You've seen the media change dramatically over the last 20 years or so. How do you think it's changed in regards to how we report on the royal family? The use of social media, the use of the way the public
Yeah.
can get access to them and take pictures of them. How's that changed?
Well, it has changed dramatically. I remember when I first started doing the Royal Beat in the early 90s, really the media, the newspapers were in complete control of the message, if you like, that we would be able to file stories and that would be the only story you would see on the royal family, and that would be the way it would work. We would go on the royal tour, and we would be file maybe one story a day, maybe one big feature. But now, of course, social media has taken over. When you go to cover an event, there's so many more television channels. There are people that are posting and tweeting all the time. So whenever, say, the Queen or a member of the royal family arrives, they don't see a sea of faces. They normally see a sea of, of mobile phones taking photographs and recording the situation, which is a bit weird for them. But I think it's the immediacy of it all, really. The fact that sometimes you don't really know what the story is going to be or at what time. It's 24 hours a day. And so I think that is quite, you've got to be quite conscious of that. But equally, you've got to be focused on, say, if you're filing for the London Evening Standard, what are the major photographs that are going to appear in the first edition for the Standard? And that's what we did in, say, New York. We had all the major photographs of the major events, such as when William and Kate went to the basketball at in Brooklyn. That made a spread of pictures. And that, even though that had been tweeted out, even though it had appeared online, it doesn't really matter because it's the first set of pictures in the newspaper.
All right, now, looking ahead into 2015, what do you think we can expect from the royal family?
Well, it's going to be a big year in terms of William and Kate because the birth of their second child will happen in April, God willing, and everything will go well. I think they'll focus of the world in terms of the media will be back on the hospital in Marylebone. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a big event. I'm not sure it'll be on the same scale as the birth of Prince George. But then again, I think all the major networks will come down. There'll be all the sea of photographers outside. I think what's happening, so that'll be a major event. We've got also to look forward to the Queen becoming the longest ever reigning monarch. She will take over, pass the Queen Victoria's record, if you like, of being the longest reigning monarch. She's already the oldest monarch that's ever been on the throne. But apart from that, I think we'll see the royals trying, I think, to do more getting the message across themselves. I think that William will step up his mission for stamping out illegal wildlife trade. I think we'll see more of Prince Charles in the role of, if you like, a shadow king role, if you like, helping support the Queen more and more. And probably a little less of the Queen. When we see her, I think there'll be more staged events. There'll be a major event also when Prince William goes to China ahead of the birth of his second child. He'll go alone because it's too close to the birth of the babies. So that's going to be a major event. But there'll be several big moments, but I think the key one will probably be the birth of Cambridge's second child.
All right, Robert, thank you so much.
Thank you.